welcome back. It's been a long time. Episode 4, I think, of Inspected Goals, pod where we try and improve our FPL play through a more analytical approach. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here to see if, I guess, everything's up and running well. I'm a little bit rusty. I'm joined again by the GOAT, Johnny Curry, JC, Spaceman. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, glad you remembered your intro.
Just about, yeah.
We just about got set up, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
we'll figure it out as we go. I don't think this needs to be super detailed.
Yeah, trying my
But yeah,
best.
good to be back.
Yeah, I think a couple of reasons we haven't been around. One, just life getting in the way and just busy with work and whatever else. But also, I think there's so much FPL content that it can get a bit oversaturated, and at times we can kind of force discussions and things like that. So I think there has been interesting things to discuss, but maybe like one small thing per week. So I think kind of a slightly kind of, I guess, delayed episode, maybe a little bit more than I planned. Maybe over the international break would have been nice, but kind of delaying it a little bit just meant that I guess we have a little bit more to chat about. And I think it'll probably be a slightly more, I guess, kind of casual approach. How's our season going? Review of things and kind of general plans going forward. I suppose, first of all, the season so far, how are you enjoying it? How's your planning been going? Many points. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, quite similar to you, as we'll get onto. But yeah, it's gone pretty well. I think I was quite jealous of the Salah teams when I saw people posting them in Game Week 1, especially when Game Week 1 went that way for points. But Haaland seems to have paid back. But I did think the line was maybe more interesting, and actually, they've both done like historically high scores in the first few. I mean, it's hard to get higher than 2 hat tricks a brace and a return anyway. But it means that actually, like, as long as the rest of your team did okay, you can do quite well with either of them. And the guys who've done really well are the guys who had both. But there's not been a huge amount to react to, and obviously with our new being able to roll to 5 free transfers, then there was a slight thought that we might end up doing nothing for 5 weeks. We've not quite had to do that, but I feel like I've only really had 1 week where I was really putting some thought into, do I do this or do I do that? There was a slight thought last week about maybe wildcarding if a few players were injured, but I think it was game week 3 where Nkunku hadn't played, Mavididi hadn't played, both were dropping in price, didn't look to be starting anytime soon, and there was a decision about what to do with them, whether to go early, things like that. So there's been 1 week where it's been, I don't know, get my teeth into the thinking. But because I'm playing quite a few other games, then
Yeah.
I've been plenty busy with other formats where someone else got injured, or you end up with, I don't know, João Pedro and he's not playing, and you got to move him then and there rather than having to wait a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good start. Hasn't gone terribly. I know some people are way down, so just to be in the mix after 4 weeks and not having done anything silly. Still got the wild card. Don't have Salah, but that's maybe the decision this week. But there's plenty of football in the meantime, so
Yeah, I think important to stress just how little it really matters how anybody's doing right now. You know, you see a lot of people stressing out about having what we see as a bad start, I suppose. And yeah, sure, 3 or 4 weeks can go not that well, but that's just how it goes. You know, if maybe they might be all condensed into one small month or whatever, but everybody has, 6, 7, 8 bad weeks across the entire season. Maybe more than likely going to be more than that. So I think important to stress how little your rank or whatever matters right now. Sure, when we see like 2 or 3 million, like, yeah, that kind of sucks, and it's a shame, but it doesn't really matter over the grand scheme of things. If you just keep playing well, trust the process, I suppose. Presuming you kind of let's say play relatively well and you're relatively decent at the game, then your team would be at least somewhat okay right now. And so there's no point kind of stressing about, these terrible decisions I've made, and I've made all these terrible decisions, I need to change my team and gut my team entirely. Sure, maybe a wild card or something might be needed, or some transfers here or there, but more often than not, like, the good players are just going to be good, right? We stress that all the time. They're going to get points over the season. And yeah, I think Salah, Haaland, whatever, you had both. Great if you had one of them.
yeah,
If
yeah.
just
Who cares?
at the end of the day, the best, they're going to score the most goals in the league, and hopefully you own the one who does more. But it doesn't really matter. Yes, Haaland scored like 800 goals, but that's just
Lots
it's just part of it, right?
He can do that.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to get the points, and sometimes you might not. Just build a good team and hope that by the end of the season you get luckier than everyone else. So don't stress.
I think there's I guess really early in the season there's a bit of an impatience
Yeah.
with we've had such a long time off without the decisions, and then suddenly the game's back.
Yeah,
and
we want new things to do.
do things.
Yeah.
Whereas actually the first few weeks it's really about gathering the information, but there is that like, oh, the decision I make here, especially in terms of things like team value, have quite long
Yeah.
knock-on consequences. If I make a mistake in game week 36, it might affect my rank more because I know where I'm going to finish. But if I make a mistake here, it might affect 30 odd game weeks, and then you're in game week 30 and you're a million down on team value, and that has that effect because you did something different in here. We have no idea how these things will all pan out. Like, there's decisions to be made, and if they go wrong, then they can have those bad knock-on effects. But I don't think there's many people who we've really made mistakes on assessing at the start of the season. There's things where things have changed. So I know some people started without Eze because he might have gone to City or Spurs, and he didn't. And we thought Nkunku was probably going to start because of his good minutes, and he didn't. But I think, yeah, indeed. We thought Vardy was injured, and Mavadidi was on penalties for Leicester. Yeah. But I think those are things where there's been new information that makes it change. So you look back and go, okay, yeah, I got it wrong, but you wouldn't necessarily have thought that before you made the decision. So unless there's people in your team where you go, oh, with all the information I had in preseason, that was probably a mistake, then that's just what happens. That's the game. We can't control the footballers, sadly.
Yeah, so I suppose just to, I guess, because it's been so long, just a quick kind of, I guess, recap on, I guess, for me, how the season has gone. I might just change over here, just give me a second, and bring up my current team, I suppose, in a second. But I suppose to start off the season, yeah, you alluded to it there. Jamie Vardy, we were told he was injured by Steve Cooper, and then turns out he played like 2 days later, and Mavadidi, who would have been playing as a 9 and on pens, was no longer playing as a 9 or at all, and wasn't on pens. So that was a bit of an issue.
Maybe it was a mistake, but
maybe it was. I think
coping with it now. We'll pretend he's just a big guy.
Yeah, I think later down the line he probably would have become an issue minutes wise. I suppose, to be honest, even with Vardy fit, I still was surprised at just the fact he wasn't playing anymore. Like starting at all, but look, it is what it is. He Mavadidi, it's a shame. He played and took a pen in the cup the other day and scored. So we can
scored
take
in the league last week, didn't he, as well?
He scored in the league, yeah. So we can take some
and
solace. Nkunku, the other one, I think, kind of massive.
A lot of people went
on
Nkunku.
Yeah, I think just about everybody did. And yeah, just whatever, just wasn't playing anymore. And
turns out Chelsea have lots of players.
Yeah, exactly. I guess maybe there were some signs there around how Maresca was going to play and how his minutes are going to be, but I don't think it's a mistake to buy him. It is what it is. These things kind of happen, you know. So just, I suppose, those two players, I think they're the only transfers I made this season. I have my team, my current team up here on the screen right now, and I'll just switch over to your team, Johnny, briefly. So so here's Johnny's team.
Should we go back to your team?
Okay.
Okay.
So we have my team here, and the two transfers that I made this season were on I think they were on a Sunday night, or maybe even a Saturday night. I don't know. Like very.
One was Saturday.
One was Saturday. And then one the following Sunday morning. So yes, if me and Johnny, the same team, 15 out of 15. Now one of us happens to have 17 points more than the other, which we might get onto later. But same team, same players. Just one, I guess, better than the other. They were the two transfers we made, Nkunku and Mavadidi. Do you remember which one was first? I actually can't.
We did Mavadidi first
on the Saturday.
He didn't play on the Saturday. Moved him to Rodgers on the Saturday night, with Nkunku playing on the not playing on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So the evaluation was, okay, Mavadidi's dropping in price and he's an issue. He's not going to play. and we could move to Rodgers and dodge the price drop, which meant that we still had another transfer that if Isak or Nkunku on the Sunday didn't play, then we could deal with that with the other transfer. And if all three things went wrong, then we probably had the wild card anyway. So we could get the transfers back. So we did Mavididi to Rodgers on Saturday, and then Nkunku to Mbomo on Sunday, which was quite a nice route that opened up.
Yeah.
Even if you did just Mavididi to Rodgers.
Yeah, because Tony left Pens and just...
So we had new info on Mbomo that he's very good.
Yeah, actually, when we bought him, he actually hadn't left just yet, had he? But he was looking likely. I think the deadline.
Yes,
yeah,
we had to wait all week.
Yeah, but again, it comes back to that. You mentioned it there on the wild card that if things didn't go to plan, we could wild card. I think that's really nice. It kind of allows you to be a bit more aggressive around price changes. If this was last season, I probably wouldn't have made the moves as early as I did. But the fact that if Tony stays and is looking to start, we get an injury or something, and for whatever reason our team is a little bit worse, we can just wildcard and, like you say, go back to 2 free transfers. So it kind of lets you kind of attack that team value a little bit more.
I think the other point to make about it being that week was actually wildcard 3 looked good even in isolation, whereas this week, one, there's midweek games, so going early there's more likely it goes wrong. But 2, wildcard 5 is just, I think, quite poor. Even if enough things go wrong, you're probably better off taking a bit of a loss in 5 and wildcarding in 6.
Yeah.
Whereas in 3, a lot of people were going to go in 4, but then suddenly 3 looked okay.
Right? Yeah.
And also, I think the transfer window closed the day before the deadline.
Yes.
The Saudi one, well, I don't know if anyone knew when it closed, but it wasn't the same.
It might still be open according to some websites. Yeah.
But we were pretty sure that we'd know on Tony by the deadline. So even though we didn't know then, we'd know by the deadline. So wildcard 3 would be fine. Whereas I think wildcard 5, I'm much more cautious, and we haven't made the moves.
Yeah.
If we wanted to. One, because we look much less sure, but also the fallback of wildcard to bailing out is not as good. But yeah, the fact that 2, 3, or 4 as a wild card was okay meant that you could make moves early if you wanted to. Equally, waiting and being sure that you didn't want a wild card then was also fine. I think there's varying opinions on how much the wild card's actually worth this year because of the rule changes.
And, I think it depends as well.
I know people passed up on, there's a reasonable chunk here, but I'm going to save it because I think that's a fair bet. But also, I was happy to make the bet early if we needed to.
Yeah, of course, the player itself, it kind of varies a lot in terms of Mavididi and Nkunku is like, okay, they're just never going to play anymore. So they're like terrible, terrible options. They just aren't options going forward. They're just not going to play games. And the fact that Nkunku in particular was getting sold heavily and was already like really heavily owned, that it was quite likely he'd drop again. So if we didn't sell him then and kind of to preserve 0.1, or we might be looking at 0.2. I think he's gone down again since then, whatever. So it was kind of something that was going to spiral a little bit out of control. I know a lot of managers had Kwanzaa kind of the week before, I think, that had a similar-ish decision to make. He came off at half time, and then it was kind of, okay, I can sell him now, and I probably should because of the fact that, well, 1, he's going down, 2, he's probably going to go down again, and 3, he's a non-option. The kind of opposite to that, say somebody like Bruno, there is a reasonable chance that I just own him until next season. Like, that could happen. And so the loss in team value wouldn't be kind of as problematic because he's still a good option in my eyes, right? He's definitely going to play every game, every minute,
So if you're in him all season, it doesn't matter how much he costs now. It just matters how much you bought him for.
Yeah, I guess you could argue like selling him and then buying with a wild card again or something. So in that 1 week, it might save you 0.1, but it's not going to like spiral out of control if you're just going to own a good player. Isak probably somewhere kind of in the middle. He's still a good pick, but probably going to sell him at some point. So I guess there's a little bit more kind of curiosity there, but again, I just don't really see any reason to be selling. I think he went down on maybe Saturday night. Whatever, he's fine. He's fine. Yeah, could I end up selling him this week if his nose is still bleeding? Maybe.
Will we know? Probably not.
Exactly. Yeah, Eddie Howe will definitely give us all the information we need, anyways. So yeah, 2 transfers made this season. Rodgers and Mbomo in, which were lovely.
What do you think for this week?
Yeah, so 2 transfers in the bank. Again, team is on the screen, and we both have the exact same team. I suppose the options are obviously around Salah and kind of how that would happen. Initial kind of planning was hoping for some price changes that would open up potentially Haaland to Solanke and then Rodgers up to Salah, but they didn't materialise, so that's not happening. Eze not taking the penalty the other day makes him, I mean, at least a little bit worse. He's still good, but he's not as good. So I thought maybe there could be some, maybe Haaland to Solanke, Eze to Salah stuff, but not really. The other alternative, depending on...
There might be.
Yeah, there might be, yeah. Depending on fitness of Saka and Isak, I guess there's a potential for Isak downgrade to, I guess, Vardy, is it? Probably. To Jamie Vardy, and then Saka up to Salah, potentially. Yeah. Calvert-Lewin, maybe, yeah, if we can afford it. I don't know if we can.
Cheap. Oh, no, maybe we couldn't. Maybe that was the Haaland one.
Yeah, Eddie Nketiah, maybe. I don't know. Somebody cheap, and then...
A nice beat forwards.
Yeah, and then Saka up to Salah. But I think realistically, I'm just going to firm it and just... whatever. Hope Salah doesn't go crazy. He might, but he might not. And I'll probably just captain Haaland. Any difference for you, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really evaluated it in too much detail because like Saka plays tomorrow.
Yeah, Salah so much info still. Yeah,
Haaland plays in an hour or so.
João Pedro as well. Still.
João Pedro. Yeah, we don't know. And then there's cup games too. I don't know. Like, I mean, Solanke might not be fit. Yeah. He might. I don't know. Who knows? So I haven't really dug into it until Friday.
Yeah.
But I think I'm slightly keener on the Salah move because I think Eze losing pens is actually a reasonable chunk, and that's one of the big things that we. Well, I mean, you read into because Glasner said we have 2 penalty takers.
Yeah.
And you can read into that as okay, then he's maybe got half the share, or you can read it into as okay, Mateta's the one who's been greedy and he wants them, and Eze isn't as bothered because he took the last one. But whatever share you give him, we were pretty sure he was on most of them. So the loss there is, I think we worked it out as like, I mean, it's about half an EV to an EV per week for losing like the whole pen share for a good team.
Okay, that's more than I actually thought.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I think there's usually about 100 to 110 penalties this season. Mm-hmm. There was one year where it was like 120.
Sorry, this would be if he lost them entirely, if he went to 0.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, so that would be like, I don't know, 5 or 6 per team per season. So that's one every 6 or 7 games. Yep. So it's like 0.14, 0.15 pens as a game, and then as a midfielder, it's like 4 points for a penalty because you get 5 for scoring, but you might miss it. But there's bonus in there as well. So 0.15. Yeah. So it's about half an EV without the bonus.
Yeah.
Per week. So actually, but that's the whole pen share. So that's you had 100 and now you have 0. But that's a reasonable like ballpark estimate.
Yeah.
So I think because Eze was so good already, like he was one who, if he stayed at Palace, I think was mispriced. Basically.
Yeah, probably like the best player in the game.
Yeah. So now he's just good value rather than stands out as he sticks out above all the other players at that price. So he's still someone you could keep, but I think as well, depending on Solanke's pen share, whether we think that with Son, then I guess there's a bit of leeway for Solanke coming in to be better than some of the model projections. I mean, it might be worse. He might not have pens. And Eze to likely be a little bit worse because we give him some share, but he might have none. So there's scope for that to have a bit more of a swing than the model projections suggest at the minute, but equally there's scope to go the other way. So it's hard to tell, and I think seeing when the wildcard might fit, because I think that moves better if you put wildcard 8 in than if you put nothing in. But I haven't looked in too much detail. But basically, I think everyone's moves this week are somewhat centric around Salah.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have Salah, do I need to make moves to get to him? If I do have Salah, you're probably not doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just a question there in the chat from Emil, which is actually good. Really good question. So he's seeing a similar move to that as and Solanke switch to get Salah from Haaland. And just around the team value on Haaland. So he's gone up in price. So if you're selling him and then looking to buy him back in 5-6 weeks or something, I think has he gone up by 0.3 already, or is he just 0.2? Is he 15.2 now?
15.2 when I checked, but I
Okay.
can't remember.
Yeah, so
2 or
15.2
3.
now. So obviously, in terms of selling value, has gone up by 0.1. But
Let
I
me look.
guess we'd imagine he probably goes up again at some point before the time you buy him back, just because he's very good.
Has
Um,
he gone up from 15
yeah, I know it's crazy.
and like up a chunk
Um,
as well?
yeah, so I guess just
Uh,
thoughts around
he's
that.
15.2 now.
He's 15.2. Okay, so just thoughts
Yeah.
around that. If you sell him now and then looking to buy him back later, how that kind of might come into your thinking, the team value
I mean,
loss?
like we had this calculation that Trout shared that he'd done
Yeah,
like a couple of seasons ago, and then we both redid it and got similar values because it can vary season to season. That was like valuing zero point 0.1 team value in terms of like spending power on average as being worth 0.3 EV. No, sorry, a million is worth 0.3 EV
yeah,
per week that you have left, which is basically just the spending power. So the way you work that out is you give the team incrementally more and more value and see how much extra points it can get or expected value it can get. So it doesn't realize in that sort of linear fashion. Every 0.1 isn't worth that much, but it's enough of a bet that because it you notice it, you get 0.1 short of a move that's really good and you fall off a cliff and you're like, oh, okay. But equally, you often there's 0.1 and it didn't make a
yeah,
difference because you can afford what you can afford. So it is spiky, but we don't know what move I'm going to be 0.1 off of in game week 20 because
yeah,
who knows what's happening in 3 weeks, let alone 12. So it's an estimate of like how much is that likely to cost on average. And I think it's been really useful to start thinking like that, but there is a risk of taking it like too literally.
yes,
So this
yeah,
0.1 right now is worth 0.3, but it does matter, and you can use it to calculate. But I think the fact that like we're probably going to be swapping around the premiums, provided the other players are okay. So if I sell Haaland now, I am going to probably buy him back, but I'm probably going to sell him again. So I lose the 0.2, but then I sell him, and then I don't, like. So there's more than just this one transfer that's in effect, and actually, I'm probably not going to have Haaland all season. I'd be surprised if I have him all the way through,
yeah,
unless something happens with the other players. So it's hard to like
yeah. It's a tricky one,
specifically
isn't it?
put it into a calculation and be like,
Yeah,
it's this much.
yeah. I don't
But
think I'd make a big like. I wouldn't like have it as like a real main thinking point around it. Like it might if I was
yeah,
50-50 on the decision, I might kind of be like, okay, maybe I won't.
'cause
There's value as
it's
like a
not an
swinger.
effect,
Yeah,
but also like if if he doesn't rise and you get on Salah now and Salah shoots up,
yep,
then you are better off that way. So it's hard to project exactly, but
yep.
yeah, there's a point of selling them and buying them back. But I think because we'll be more moving around the premiums, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Um,
Good point.
but it's sort of a half answer.
Yeah, I think so. From what I'm getting, like you're kind of maybe kind of 50-50 around potentially doing that double move ish, something like that.
Yeah, something right now.
Obviously, so much news to come and info to come, but like you're definitely kind of
If I had to decide now,
considering it.
yeah, I'd be
Yeah,
unsure.
yeah. I think I'm leaning no, but I'm kind of
Mm.
always leaning no to whatever the move is that considering. Um,
Should I do something?
Yeah,
No,
I think
that's the default.
we talked about it a lot. I think even when we did an episode before the season around kind of trying to get to three-ish transfers and kind of playing from around there. So I am conscious of going back to one free transfer just doesn't feel that nice. When I think the team I have is really really good, and I think if I was to wildcard in sixth, my team would look slightly closer to this than it might if I make the moves. Maybe. Um,
Yeah,
do you
you're
get me?
slightly
So
moving away.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
slightly moving away a little bit. I mean, my team would still be great if I have Salah and Solanke, of course, but I also think my team is really good now. And yes, it kind of sucks this week to miss out on that EV. But I think I can make that up in the longer term. I suppose I think I guess, have a strong enough team and a deep enough team, deep enough squad that and I think I'm usually decent enough with my transfers that I can kind of catch up on that EV miss now later on in the season.
So do you think you'd have Haaland on wildcard 6?
Probably not, but I think I'd
Right.
be more likely maybe to have him than Salah. I don't really know. I haven't looked too much into it, but I think Haaland's probably better than Salah, just generally, as just a general pick. I think he's probably better.
Yeah.
If I was wildcarding at six, I'd be wildcarding for like projecting for a very long time, and probably be more likely to have him than Salah. I don't think I might not have either, to be honest. I might just go with no premiums, which is another, I guess, discussion that we might go on to now. Nice little
Yeah,
segue
yeah,
into that.
sure.
So yeah, you sent me a nice little graphic earlier on,
I had to get a
around the
Venn diagram in
different, yeah, a
somehow.
little Venn diagram here, for some wildcard timings and the where which wildcards had which premiums in them, right?
Yeah, so I mean, this was basically just like the top line on FPL review solve. So obviously you can change those. So I did put Salah and Palmer as the two that you'd have on wildcard 4, whereas I know a lot of people like dropped Palmer and put Haaland in.
Mm-hmm.
But the top line, I think, or certainly what I was looking at, was those two and no Haaland. But I think also like so wildcard 12 and wildcard 7, I messed up the Venn diagram, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
The ones with the asterisks, actually, that's Saka and Palmer, but not Salah. But there wasn't any space on the diagram.
Ah, I see.
You get complicated when there's too many circles.
Uh,
And wildcard 7 would be Saka and Haaland. But I think these are like an idea of which pairings of these, and like I am calling Saka, Son, and Palmer premiums here. Maybe the big hitters, maybe whatever you want to call
yeah,
them. But I
sure.
think in previous seasons, plus 10 million was usually a premium. It's just that we've been so used to Salah and Haaland being the two premiums ever since Kane left that actually we don't really think of Saka, Palmer, and Son as premium. But they are. I mean, they're expensive. And if you think about it, you can squeeze 3 of these in, especially if only one of them Salah or Haaland. But you're not going to have more than that. Like most of the time, you're having 2. I don't think you can have 1, but it's 2 or 3 of these guys basically. And that's the first time we've really had that thought of like, oh, there's some big hitters I have to miss out on. Whereas last year you could probably have all 5 of these in the team, because Palmer was 5 or 6 million, Haaland was a bit cheaper, Salah was a bit cheaper, Son and Saka were like 8.5. So you could have all 5 and you didn't need to worry about it. Whereas now you can't really do that unless you're having, well, I don't know how you get 5 in, but but I think basically what you can see here is that like depending on when you wildcard, you're probably going to have a different set of you might change it, but you're probably going to have a different set of premiums than if you wildcarded a week later. So that's not to say that having a different set is wrong. It's just that it's like a small loss. So actually going through game week 4 when I had Haaland and Saka and the wild card would have had Salah and Palmer, like that isn't the top line, but it was quite close. I don't think I lost a huge amount of game week 4 EV relative to the field.
Yeah.
Whereas in game week 5, I probably am going to lose a little bit. But basically, from now to game week 11 or 12, you're going to have a suboptimal premium pairing in some of these weeks.
Yes.
Because I don't have the transfers to move that.
Yep.
To go from Palmer and Salah to Saka and Palmer to Son and Saka, and then where we're going again? Then we go Son to Haaland, and then Saka to Son. Like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can.
Yeah.
Maybe someone who saved that 4 transfers can do
Maybe.
that. But that's not a good use of transfers to do all of them. So on any given week, I'm going to look at. I know no Salah is a big chunk this week, but in some of these weeks, I'm going to be like, I don't have the right premium pair. So it's at what point do I want to make the move to pick those ones, and at what point do I want to forego some cost?
Yeah.
So if I just stuck with Salah and Palmer the whole way through, that's probably losing too much. But if I try and jump all the way around, then I'm using my transfers and I'm losing too much elsewhere.
Yep.
So there's a bit of a balance, but I think basically it's like it's a thought process we've not had in FPL for a couple of seasons because we can put everyone.
Yeah, I think as well on that. Yeah, perfect. You just can't. You put it perfectly. You just can't. And you can't get to them all either. You can't own them all at one time, but you also can't own them all in every single game week and transfer them all around. And I think, I guess where maybe you can start to do little things like that is maybe if you had Haaland so far, and then maybe you're buying Salah with a plan to wildcard in 6 or something. A lot of people kind of considering that. I don't think I will be wildcarding in 6. Again, I think I have a good team, and I think my team will continue to be good for a while unless I get lots of injuries, which could happen. But I don't really have a set wildcard timing or plan I mean, I'll use it when I need to, probably in December, but maybe earlier if things go wrong. Do you have many considerations for wildcarding in the near future, or just waiting for rainy day fund kind of thing?
I think 5 or 6 is not one that our teams set up for. I think 6 is a good time.
Yeah,
It's
generally,
really
yeah,
time
yeah,
to
yeah,
do that. But I think the way we managed to get to Mbomo already, and we've already got Saka in place, and unless he's injured, probably aren't selling him because there was potentially some routes from a couple of weeks out that was like Saka out to get to Salah to then wildcard in 6.
yeah,
But I think we've kind of got the team that's well set for like, well, you see here, 5, apart from not Salah in 5, 6, 7, and 8 is Saka and Haaland and maybe Son, which is what we're on already. So I think that's kind of when we don't need to wildcard,
yeah,
because that's the pairing we've already
yeah.
got.
I
So
think
hopefully, unless something else goes wrong, I think we're well set for that from the premium area, so we can either bank transfers or readjust the other players,
yeah,
or like wildcard 8 does look quite nice. I think actually like Arsenal have 2 really good fixtures, 6 and 7, and then some slightly weaker ones for a few weeks, and then it gets good in 12, I think, again. So getting into and out of Arsenal is probably one that's going to be deterministic of when you might want a wildcard. So if you don't have any now, you probably do need to do it in 6. If you have lots now, then 8 is quite good. If you have lots now, but you have some transfers to be able to move away from them in 8, then you can wildcard later. So I think premiums and the Arsenal swing, because that's probably the biggest up and down in fixture difficulty that we've got for one of these big teams. So Havertz and Gabriel and whoever,
yeah,
you probably, I don't think there's going to be that many people with only one Arsenal or even none in 6 and 7. So if you can load into them, that's good because they're a good team.
yeah,
Did you know?
yeah.
Yeah, so I think for us this week's a bit weird because
It is, yeah, because there is a big chunk of EV on the table for this week.
yeah,
Like
but
there's a big chunk.
also it's just not really a great week to wildcard because wildcarding when
Yes.
the top 2 teams play each other,
Yeah.
unless you're trying to be really different and go without them, or
Yeah.
you build it in such a way that. So I think if I wildcarded this week, I'd probably have Saka and have him on the bench, or maybe starting. But I think he's too good to not have and book a transfer in 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And there are other players. So like Eze's got quite good EV this week. So there are some good fixtures. So I think he's on our bench at the moment, provided everyone's fit.
Yep.
So
And he's
I'd
not the
probably
worst
still
player
have-
to come on if somebody isn't fit. Like it's not a disaster.
Yeah.
He's still pretty good at football. And he plays for a good team.
He has penalties for all we know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Don't know.
Yeah, I think something just to be, I guess, cautious of for people considering that double move. I think that is probably the big discussion point this week, that double move to Salah or similar. Anyways, buying Salah, as you mentioned, people with Salah probably aren't doing anything unless they have an injury or something. So people going to Salah, I've seen a couple of plans where it's like, I'm going to buy Salah and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. And I just think generally, just to be, I guess, cautious of any lines in whatever solver or mental solver you're using to plan your transfers, anything that involves using transfers beyond this game week, I generally think I'd be a bit hesitant to kind of buy into them. So, for example,
yeah,
Salah,
I guess if you're using all of them in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like the next,
like
yeah. I'm probably over exaggerating, but the next week or two, unless I was on a wildcard, then I'd be open to being more aggressive. If I was locked into maybe wildcard 8 or something, I might be a little bit more aggressive. But just generally, I suppose anything that's loading a lot of transfers over the horizon, I'd just be cautious of it. And that doesn't mean that the current move is bad. Salah and Solanke is definitely a good move this week, but I would maybe try and fiddle with either whatever solver I'm using or my brain to try and see, well, is it still a good move if I don't do anything beyond this week? Like if this is all I do and then things go disastrously going forward, how am I set up then? So again, for me, if I use those 2 transfers this week, I've got 1 left, and if things don't go so well for next week or the week after, I'm in a bit of a terrible spot and a bit of a disaster, and then I'm considering, I guess I can wildcard out of it, but that's not my plan. So it's kind of just to be aware of it. If you're seeing lines, just generally, I think you would probably agree you might be a little bit less hesitant than me to kind of I guess, buy into those blinds. You definitely be more aggressive than me. But if I'm clicking solve and I see 6 or 7 transfers, I just disregard that line altogether. This week's game week's transfers, they might be really good, and I'll kind of test the robustness of that and see. It's kind of like X Mins. If there's a point where, if I drop his mins from 62 to 60, now he's a bad pick. Well, he's probably a bad pick at 62 as well. So if the moves I'm making this week become bad, if I can't do the moves in 3 weeks' time, then the moves I'm doing now are probably bad. That might kind of make sense.
Yeah, I think it's if they're like reliant on the follow-up move.
Yeah.
So if double move for Salah now means that you need to move him to Son or Saka next week, then that's if that does poorly. If something goes wrong, you have to do a different move in 6.
Yeah, it might not just be Salah either, by the way, right?
But as an example, I guess like you realize that actually those moves are grouped. So the 2 moves this week and the one next week are actually like one move spread out over 2 weeks. And you realize that actually the follow-up one is not as maybe there's a player you think is a risk, and actually you go, if he's benched, then does my team cope with that? And it might be that it's okay and you can bench them for a week, and that's why we kind of like having these deeper squads, because it sometimes lets you take these routes even if they are a little bit more fragile, because if something goes wrong you can hide someone on the bench rather than, I only have 11 players, so if something goes wrong I have to fix one of the starting 11. But you can go through and either manually or adjust and go, okay, like what happens if I get partway down this line and something happens? And if you go, it's okay, I just follow this other different path. Or maybe it's like, okay, I want to try and get to this player in game week 7 or 8. Let's say you didn't have Mbomo, and it wanted him in 6 or 7. It might be that there's a very specific move that works well if you do this double move here. That doesn't work if something else happens, but it might be that you had like 3 players who are around the same price and you just sell the worst one, and the worst one might be different when you get there, in which case the move itself is somewhat robust because there's more routes to do it. If that makes sense. So let's say you had I can't think of any of the mid-price mids, but if you got
Gibbs
3
White.
of them,
A lot of people have Gibbs White.
If you had Gibbs White and Nkunku and someone else, Eze, and you go, okay, well, I buy a Momo for at the minute Nkunku in game week 6, then you go, okay, well, actually, if Eze gets injured, then I just sell him instead, and actually that doesn't do that much worse. Then that move is more robust than it might have been for someone else's team, where they only have Rodgers and Gibbs White, and then the next one is Saka. And you go, okay, well, I can only really sell Gibbs White there. And if I want to do it a different way, then I need 2 transfers. So the same move is less robust for that team. And that's not always obvious from just the solver outputs or thinking about it. So,
I think probably like just increasing free transfer value, if you're seeing lots of moves, is generally decent practice, just to kind of test which ones disappear with. If I'm a little bit more hesitant to use my transfers, which ones disappear?
See what changes,
that's probably what I do.
Occasionally, especially in that double game week season, in previous seasons, like some transfers are just so good that you should book them in because they're worth more than 4 points. So I think it was like, what did we have? We had like double game week 26, blank game week 27, double 28, double 29, blank 30, or whatever it was that crazy season. And you could do these crazy moves in game week 26, and you go, oh, well, I'm taking like 3 hits. But they were worth it even if something went wrong, because the follow-up moves in game week 28 were all worth more than 4 points. So you go, okay, well, that's fine. If something goes wrong, I do another hit. I get another doubler, rather than this guy who had a single game. So sometimes they are super valuable. But the same concept applies at a lower free transfer value. It's just that the free transfer value never goes above 4, because if it's above 4,
you just do it.
It's a hit. Just do it. But somewhere around the 1.5 to 2.5, you go, I have to think about this. And if it's any lower than that, then don't think about it. Just don't do it. If it's point whatever or a really small amount, or it can wait a week, or however you're evaluating your team.
Yeah. I guess this week, I suppose, if you don't go to Salah, any thoughts around captaincy? I'll probably just be on Haaland.
Haaland, I think.
Yeah, I'll just bring up here.
I thought about Eze before he lost pens.
Yes.
Or I kind of liked going for João Pedro just because why not captain someone who's 5.5 million? But Forest have actually looked. Is it Forest they're playing?
Yes, yeah. So I just brought up here on the screen just from Rob T FPL on Twitter, just the projected goals and clean sheet odds for the teams this season, or this game week, excuse me. So yeah, Brighton playing Forest, and Brighton at 1.8 projected goals. Man City just comparably 1.75 at home to Arsenal. So yeah, João Pedro could have been a bit of fun. But I guess
I imagine those lines have dropped a little bit because actually Brighton didn't beat Ipswich and Forest, well, they beat Liverpool, but they've actually been quite good this season. So I imagine a few weeks ago, then the projections might have been slightly more comfortable.
Yes, yeah. Since yes.
On top of the fact that João Pedro is now a doubt. So I don't see anyone outside of Haaland, at least not in our team, who makes sense. But yeah, Haaland, or if you own Salah, just captain Salah. Don't get anything.
Yeah, not really a consideration. I guess there's things are like Son.
Some people have Son's good.
Solanke.
If I had Son in, I'd definitely go for him. Solanke, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see how they get on tonight against Coventry.
Yeah, I guess you're maybe whatever you think about the pen situation at Tottenham as well. If you have a really strong feeling that one of them has it over the other, worth kind of considering. Worth considering that if you have Solanke and you're absolutely positive he has pens, then he might be a good pick. They just on the graphic here, Spurs 2.3 projected goals this week. I think the thing with Haaland is his goal share is just so incredibly high for Man City that even when their projected goals are 1.75, he's getting like 0.8 of those. Yeah, he's getting at least like 0.8, 0.9 of those. I think he's at like 40% or something insane. So
0.9 would be high. That'd be more than half of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
it'd be, but 0.75 or something like that. Yeah, it'd be about 0.75.
Don't do live maths. I think
yeah, it'd be about 0.75 I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. He's good. Projected reasonably well. It's not his best. I mean, it's one of his worst fixtures, but he's still a good player. So I wouldn't worry about it. So like, I know some people are thinking about, do I captain Trent or Jota or someone like that if I have Liverpool but not Salah?
Yeah.
And I don't think they're miles away in their projections, but I think the concept of like covering Salah is something I don't really get behind, because to me, if you don't own Salah, you're basically betting that Liverpool don't do well. So if you captain someone else, because I mean, if Salah scores, then it's then more likely that Trent got an assist.
Yeah.
He might not have done. And equally, if Trent gets an assist, it's possible that Salah scores.
Yeah. Like if Liverpool score, like the most likely goal scorer is going to be Salah all the time.
Yeah. So if I get a return from Trent that isn't a clean sheet, then that has increased the odds that Salah has scored. So there's something like, okay, well, if which way you think about it, if Salah scored a hat trick, do I want someone involved in that, or do I just want to bet against Liverpool entirely? So there's a bit of a risk profile thing, but I think the correlated outcomes, I don't think covering really makes sense. I think that's more of an emotional play. But if it's really close, emotional plays are okay. But I'd imagine that Haaland is projecting higher than a Trent or a Jota. So if you think that's purely emotional, then maybe that's fine. But just know that you might be costing yourself a small amount of raw projected points. But if that's what you want to do, then I'm not going to go against it. You might be a Liverpool fan and you just rather. But I guess if you're a Liverpool fan, you probably do have Salah. But yeah, I think there's a few other options if you don't have Salah.
Yeah.
If you do have Salah, just captain him.
Yeah. I guess I'll open up.
I haven't given it much thought, really.
Yeah, me neither. Probably captain Haaland. If I had Salah, I'd captain him. I think that's about it. Haaland just scores the goals, right? Is there any other
people listening to us?
Yeah.
you thought about it? No.
Is there any other questions in the chat or anything from anybody? I suppose we can leave the floor open for a couple of minutes if anybody does, and if not, we'll go to bed. I think biggest questions are around that kind of wildcard timing and
that's what people are weighing at the moment. Yeah.
We could talk about it all day, I guess, but I mean,
let's.
If you're wildcard 6 pretty good, wildcard 8 looks pretty good too, and not wildcarding also looks pretty good. Just
do one of those.
Just make robust moves, right, and then see what happens. Hope things go well. You get the points.
So why did you play your triple captainship then?
Oh yeah, so that's a good point actually. The 17-point difference.
Why?
So
we
are 15 out of 15, but and also the graphic here, Rob T, FPL, another manager who copied my team but is also 17 points behind. There's only one. I only have one clone in the top 1 million at the minute. Another excellent, intelligent manager. Neither Johnny nor Rob. Why did I use it? I don't know. He's good. I don't know.
Amazing, yeah.
The number was pretty big.
Why did I not use it? I don't know.
Yeah, the number was pretty big, and he was playing at Switch, and he's pretty good at football. And no, seriously, I don't know. I think I think that I don't think his EV is going to be that much higher at any point this season.
Yeah,
I think the mystery
really put myself nearly into it.
Yeah, I think the whole mystery chip situation around the mystery of it, and maybe that's going to be used in a double game week. You would imagine that the mystery chip is going to be pretty good. There's likely going to be less double game weeks. I think 2 predicted to be there. Probably want to use a bench boost in there and maybe a free hit or a mystery chip. And so there was a relatively decent chance that the triple captain would be needed to be used in a single game week anyways, and I just thought Ipswich at home was probably the best one. I guess the worst case scenario from using it is worse than the worst case scenario in not using it in terms of EV. That there could be a player with like 13 EV that comes up, i.e. Haaland in a double game week or something. Yeah. And the worst case scenario for you in terms of EV is he's probably like 0.7 or 0.8 worse than me. Maybe Ipswich away or Southampton at home or something, right? Like you might lose like one EV
I guess worst case is that Haaland's injured for this.
Sure, yeah, of course, yeah, true.
And actually, like it's probably nearer like 1 or 2 EV that let's say the worst case is that we don't get anyone with EV more than 7.5, and I think he was nearly 9. Which could happen. Yeah. But I think I guess from my point of view, I think it was a reasonable bet that was the most EV you were going to get from it.
I think so, yeah.
And I think that's what I focused on most of the week, was trying to work out whether that was true, and was looking back through Ben Crellin's spreadsheets to see when the double game weeks were since about 2009-10 and what had happened. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? This is amazing. And then realizing that actually even a double game week for some of the poorer teams didn't really have, there's not really an Everton player, maybe Calvert-Lewin, who can like get 9 EV from, unless it's a really good double game week. And I think maybe the fact that Solanke had, Sheffield United and Luton at home last year, put it in my mind that I had I was like, oh well, a double game week for a bad team. And Solanke's a bit of an unusual case because Bournemouth are actually pretty good. He has really good goal share, and he had the 2 best fixtures, and he got like 12. But it's probably quite unlikely that a random double game week for a random team was going to be 10, more than 9 or even similar. But I think, I was happy to bet the 1 to 2 potential loss. That one, I might get more points or more EV. Maybe I won't get more points. I get more EV. That's more important.
Might be more fun too. Like you might get captain a more enjoyable player.
I like doing that unusual risk profile thing. So I was willing to spend 1 or 2 EV that I can triple captain somewhere, do an Andy Martin somewhere weird, someone doesn't know.
I actually think it was quite for me. I felt like I was doing something quite unusual. And it felt kind. I know, but it felt kind of exciting, because just because it was so discussed and so people were felt so strongly one way or the other, and so I was just like, why not? It would be a bit of fun. And also, I think
we had that. Otherwise, it would have been quite boring.
Yeah.
I guess there was. What do I do with Quansah? Do I buy Lewis? Do I buy Robinson? Do I hold him? But there wasn't a huge amount. And obviously the result was huge. Went well. not going to do much better than a hat trick.
Yeah, it was insane.
But that was funny.
Yeah, I think it was as close to a 50-50 as I'm going to get. I mean, there's a lot of 50-50s, but I think it was as close as there is, and I just decided to go for it because the main reason I just saw so many people saying it's terrible, and I just thought, oh, why not? It's kind of funny.
Oh, right. You did it out of spite.
I think, like, in a sense, it's kind of fun to do the thing that everybody hates. You know, like last season, I had Bruno for like 70 weeks when he was doing nothing. And it is kind of fun to do something that is good when everybody, I'm saying everybody, but when lots of people say that it's bad. You know, like, maybe it's an ego thing or something.
There's the contrarian thing of like, I have enough evidence to believe that this is a good idea, so I'm going to do it because other people don't think that. So I need to prove them wrong to an extent. And I can't do that by just saying it. I have to do it. Yeah, so I guess
also just funny. Just funny.
It is, yeah. and then he got another hat trick.
Yeah.
And,
also, as well, I guess just triple captaining in a single like just doesn't happen very often. So it's just kind of fun, just something new. You know, haven't done it before, so why not?
I think loads of my friends actually did it, like last season or 2 seasons ago. Just like it was Forest in game week 2 or 3 or something, or I can't remember. Just I have friends who play who just go like, Haaland easy fixed game week 2 or 3. But I guess for them, like, there's a reasonable bet that they aren't playing by game week 30. So they go, well, I should use it now because I might never use it. Whereas I know that I will be playing to the very bitter end, having played through things like the World Cup game that was completely broken. I'll be playing game week 38. So there's no bet that I won't use it later. Might forget to activate it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But some managers, it's like, well, I'll use it now, or I might not use it.
Yeah, it's kind of that kind of bell curve meme again of like just Captain Haaland against the worst team, and then the middle section. It might be double game weeks, blah blah blah. The game might get postponed, and then at the other end, just captain him against the worst team. Just get the points. You know, that was the last time you're on. That was a title. Simply get the points and. Some of us listened and some didn't. Yeah. Question in the chat there: which mid under 7 million would you go for as a 1 week punt? Just I guess looking at the projected goals and
straight
stuff.
Models. Eze,
yeah. Is Mbomo? What is he? Is he 7.5 maybe? Is Mbomo 7.5?
Mbomo's like 7, but he's playing Spurs.
Yeah. Szoboszlai, is he 7?
I think he's like 6.
They're projected to score a lot of goals.
Have we still got the
I've got the graphic up here. Yeah, they're 2.7, so that's a lot.
Ben Brereton Diaz. Maybe that's fun, isn't it? He's second behind Eze on reviews model.
Probably pen share, right?
Just to outsource my thinking completely.
Probably a pension thing because
Szoboszlai's good. Yeah. I think Szoboszlai or Brereton Diaz is the like. I mean, Mitoma or Minter maybe if you think Brighton are better than that. They're okay. Eze, Brereton Diaz, Szoboszlai, Mitoma, Minter, maybe Villa mid. John McGinn.
Morgan Rogers, man, respect him.
He's never going to score a goal.
He's going to keep playing. Another question around Gibbs White and Savinho. Who would you sell for Rogers?
Savinho. I have no idea if Savinho plays.
If he plays if you think Savinho plays all the time, he's probably pretty good because he plays for Man City.
But then they got Arsenal next, so he's not going to be good this week.
True. I'll see. Did you say how long it was for?
Who was the other one? Gibbs White.
Gibbs White, yeah. What are your thoughts on Gibbs White? A lot of people own him and are annoyed.
Well put. Yeah, I mean, I think he's quite good.
Yeah,
I don't think he's like brilliant. But I mean, people have him. I wouldn't be like, oh no, I must sell him. Apart from the fact that maybe he's dropping in price, but he's never really a problem other than team value. Like, he should play and he's okay, but he did lose most of the set pieces, I think, which is one of his upsides.
Ward-Prowse.
So he's worse than he was.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would be beating myself up if I went there and now need to sell him.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, I guess to answer the
Um,
question, I
but
would probably sell Savinho.
I think I
But
would, but
just
I think I'm
because it depends how long it's for. If it's for like a day,
yeah
then maybe the other way around.
a
But
day. We're gonna buy
yeah,
him back next week.
yeah. But if
An
it's for like
hour.
a long time, if you're planning to wild card like next week or something, then probably sell
So we got
Savinho in case he
Arsenal. Yeah.
doesn't play. Wait for a team leak or something. If he is playing, I'd probably keep Savinho and sell Gibbs White. But if he's
Yeah. In some ways, I feel like Savinho is not good enough to be worth the cognitive load of having to try and work out what City are going to do.
yeah,
Like when it was, in more recent seasons where we were
like
trying to work
early
out whether it was
Foden.
Mahrez or
Yeah,
Sterling, and
yeah.
like Mahrez was in pens at one point, and
hmm
Sterling was really good. And,
Foden as well. Like not now, but
yeah,
2 years ago or
yeah,
something.
like it was like the ups. I mean, maybe I'm being harsh on Savinho, but yeah, I just feel like he's how much upside are you going to get, and
Yeah,
I mean, I can't be bothered to try and figure out Pep, so I'll just
yeah.
leave it.
Yeah, I think Gibbs White is just
Um,
like a slight. It's just like a well, not slightly. It's just a worse version of like Bruno. Like he just
who's he
plays all the
selling?
time.
Who's he buying again? Is it
Rogers.
Rogers?
Oh yeah,
Do you need to do that this week? Are you short of players? You roll it.
yeah. I probably wouldn't do either. That's the truth. But if I had to do one,
Um,
yeah, probably that.
I'll probably do that later,
Yeah.
and then you can see if. Oh, so you got Newcastle in 6,
hmm
who are not good.
Third in the
Sadly.
league. Is that what they are?
Well, yeah, not been very good though, have we?
No, they've been horrible, horrific. I haven't
Ah,
enjoyed watching them at all. But
no, didn't have Fabian Schär though. He's back now.
um, yeah, he scored the other day, didn't he? I think
He did.
he
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
bang it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
missed. I missed most of the games at the weekend I was playing, but yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. I don't know. I think main thing just sorry for not being here for like 8 months.
Hello.
Yeah, hopefully this kind of format is enjoyable. And if not, sorry, but this is the kind of this is
You know,
what you
man.
could expect. The kind of casual approach. I think it's at the end of the day we can freak out and stress over micro details of every single move and price change and things like that, but just build a team where the
Some people
players are
find
gonna.
that fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but I feel like some people do it and get stressed and then go and be like, well, you don't have to do that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's easier said than done. I can see how people do get stressed about it,
yeah.
but my coping mechanism is to just play lots of other games so that I'm always distracted by someone else. It's this midweek's been amazing. Champions League, League Cup. There's also a Swedish and a Norwegian double game week this week. So it's just there's football, loads of football, and people are like, "What are you doing on Saturday for the FPL?" I'll be like, "There's 3 games between now and then."
Yeah, I have found myself this season more than previously, like, becoming a little bit more, I guess,
Detached.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
just checking here by the way. João Pedro not in the squad. Don't think that really matters or changes anything, but he's not. In the
I
squad
didn't think he
for
was
the-
going to be.
Yeah, I just see the lineup here, but he's not in
Would
it.
have been a bonus.
Um,
Who is starting?
Ferguson, Stupinan starts.
Ooh,
Minte, Dingra.
Barco. Maybe.
Yeah, the less said the better on Barco and Kwanzaa. Yeah.
Forward.
But, yeah, fairly
Nice.
strong lineup. But Ferguson plays, which is cool. Hopefully he does well. I like Ferguson. He's Irish.
What about
so-
Spurs? Is that lineup out?
Let's have a look. This is just.
Oh, they're
breaking
15
news.
minutes. They're 15 minutes later.
It is
If
out
you just rewatch
anyways.
the game.
Yeah, I'd be down. It is out. Solanke starts. Son does
Oh, is it?
not. Archie Gray starts. Cold. And Bergvall.
Fun.
Fraser Forster in goals.
Oh, what a guy! He went to my school.
No
just
way.
for no reason to. I mean, I don't. We overlapped for like a year, and I didn't know him. But Werner's back. Bergvall.
I'm just checking the other teams. I don't think there's anything relevant. Man City is pretty much the same
Lewis.
team as the other day. Yeah, Lewis starts.
Lewis is starting.
And Guardiola, so Walker.
And
on the
Savinho.
bench. And Savinho. Nice. Foden
Foden
on the
bench.
Yeah.
Deary me. What's he done?
I think he was ill. He was ill for a while.
Oh, he was.
He
yeah,
was,
yeah.
yeah. I think he's just. I think he's just back now. Like
Yeah.
over the last couple of weeks. So I think this might be his first squad. I think.
Our professional sportsman who missed a game through eating a dodgy curry and getting a nosebleed. Yeah, Foden and Isak. So that's what you got to track.
Yeah, hopefully Isaac is fit. But whatever. If he's not, we'll manage.
Yeah, I mean their cup game's not till next week because it moved.
Ah, really?
They're playing Wimbledon on Tuesday.
Okay.
I've forgotten why. I know because the Champions League teams are playing next week in the cup because it got moved. So the cup is over like 2 rounds.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know there was cup games on last night until
Arsenal
halfway through.
play Bolton next week and City play Watford. But I don't really know why Newcastle Wimbledon ended up that week rather than this week. But who knows? Spread it out.
Yeah.
Because it's and then Spurs play Karabag or whatever it's called. So there's like Europa League next week while there's also cup games. It's a very confusing time. But lots of football.
Yeah. 11 if I'm wondering, by the way, are Man City good?
Yes. Possibly the goodest. No, they're not good. They're good at football, but they're not good, are they? Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, I think that covers it. I think that's us. I've got nothing else to say. Build a good team.
Haaland good.
I got some points recently. Good. Follow for more. We did bench a Gabriel 15-pointer for Pedro Porro.
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it?
Thing. Yeah, that
you weren't going to do that.
I wasn't going to do that until 5 minutes before deadline.
And I was like, I'm not doing it. And you're like, oh, okay.
To be fair, I was getting ready for a match and I actually hadn't checked anything. I was just like my kind of bus team or whatever. So I was just kind of, is this okay? And just copy what you did. And
Arsenal aren't as good. Arsenal not good.
Gabriel Bullet.
Turns out Arsenal so good.
Yeah, we sucked. But had a decent game week. I think.
Funny though.
What are you ranked now?
What am I ranked now? I don't know. 1 point.
You're not in the top million, anyways, because I am.
1.2.
1.2. I am at.
Out of 10 points.
350k right now.
Well, yeah, but you don't have a chip.
Yeah, but I've got 17 points.
I've got 5 big chip buttons at the top. One of them says mystery.
Yeah, I hope we hear about that before the.
I have no idea.
Before the wild card expires.
Do you think they've worked it out?
Yeah. Yes. Maybe.
You reckon?
I reckon they've got at least a strong idea. Surely, like.
Nah, I think they're still throwing things around and going panicking.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
they're overreacting.
I do think it's going to be something massive though. Like, I do think it's going to be something very big. Like,
it's kind of got to be. It can't be like, if it just comes out and underwhelms, the fact that they've pushed it back to, be something to bring people back. If it's like, you captain 2 players, like, well, great.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think as well, like with the changes to free transfers, like clearly they are trying to bring players back.
That was quite a big change.
But clearly trying to bring players back, like who aren't like complete casuals. So I think it's going to be something that's pretty game changing in terms of our planning. In terms of planning.
Yeah.
Question in the chat: captain in 9 and 10 without Salah and Haaland. I don't know.
Captaincy in 9 and 10.
Yeah, who has good games? I don't know. Chelsea, Cole Palmer, maybe. They up there?
Yeah.
Any other Man City players, maybe? Mbeumo?
Brian.
Yeah, home to Ipswich. Probably Mbeumo. I'd probably go with, because he's probably going to be
Salah's good in 10 as well if you have him.
Yeah, but he's saying without either. He's saying without Salah or Haaland.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Son then, probably.
Yeah, Mbeumo maybe in 9 and Son in 10, yeah?
Yeah. Foden might be back for 9. I think
he could be a big. What does he cost? I don't even know.
9.3. I think he was 9.5 at the start. But Brian's fun.
Yeah,
Haaland and 9's kind of similar to this week. I feel like some people won't have him. As in, like, he's a chunk better than every other captaincy.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Is that when they play somebody terrible?
Fulham, Southampton at home.
So somebody terrible, yes. I think
whereas like
bad, by the way.
Most other weeks, sure, Haaland or Salah are very good, but you can go quite close to them with someone else. Whereas this week and 9, I think they're like, that's their biggest chunk advantage on the field.
Thoughts on Southampton?
I go with that both.
Horrendous at football.
Bad.
And I think they should sack their manager. I think
Yeah,
worst
I
team
don't really
in
know
the league.
who they. They're just playing a new team each week. I haven't really been like it's
They're awful.
Archer, then it's Armstrong, Brereton, Diaz.
Yeah, terrible.
Archer missed.
Honestly,
Did Archer missed the pen, right?
yes, against United.
Yeah.
Um,
I got Ramsdale now though. He loves
yeah, he's good.
he loves doing well while a team gets relegated.
Yeah, he's good, but I just think they're terrible. I think Russell Barton should find other
Have you
hobbies.
got a vendetta against him?
No, not at all. I don't even really.
Sounds like it.
No, I just think it's terrible.
Yeah.
No,
They
I
did
just
quite
think
well
they're
to
bad.
come up. I think I would rather Leeds have come up of the two.
Yeah,
Going
yeah.
on
Leeds
with
would have been fun without selling like their three best players.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have been quite fun, but such is life.
Sorry, Southampton fans.
Yeah, I don't like you.
We hate everyone equally. That's what Ted Knutson says on his podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think we've just about covered everything in football.
Should we do every team, whether they're good or bad?
Sure.
Man City, good. Arsenal, pretty good. Newcastle, great, amazing. Third, Southampton, bad.
Southampton
I
bad.
think that'll do.
Ipswich okay.
Okay.
Ipswich okay. Yeah. They'll be good next
Galway.
year. I like all their Irish players, so I like them.
What about Galway?
Oh no.
No, bad.
All right, we're waffling.
Okay, yeah.
We're waffling. Okay. Any other questions? Ted says that they would be better off with Russell Brand as manager. I agree.
Oh. No,
I agree. They start a revolution.
I don't like that.
All right. Peace. Do all the things in the bottom below here. I don't know. Click some of the buttons. There's some Twitters in there for us and some other people.
Some Twitters.
Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed, and if not,
Good luck,
just-
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.